very unmistakable and unmissable that the Chinese AI models are becoming popular. They're becoming stronger. They're very cost efficient. That's now the big difference that we're seeing between what the US LLMs are giving and what the Chinese LLMs are giving. The US AI story is being appreciated by the markets. I don't think the front-end AI is being appreciated fully, in China. At some point, that will start coming around. There is only this much memory capacity, but there is a lot of demand. The traditional memory space, which was dominated by some of the non-Chinese players, can actually become open for Chinese companies as well.
Mr. Tirumalai, it's great to have you here. So you recently published a report on the rise of Chinese AI. What are your core conclusions?
Number one, very unmistakable and unmissable that the Chinese AI models are becoming popular. They're becoming stronger. They're very cost efficient. And I think they're also popping up on the screens for many global CTOs of big enterprises as alternative options to what the US LLMs are providing. So that was conclusion number one, that yes, there is this emergence of Chinese homegrown LLMs, which are becoming popular globally. What the Chinese LLMs are showing is that you can actually do inference at a much lower cost, right? And I think that's where that's now the big difference that we are seeing between what the US LLMs are giving and what the Chinese LLMs are giving.
So if AI becomes more efficient, but usage grows substantially, do you think the overall demand for computer infrastructure will eventually rise or fall?
So memory is the key supply crunch right now in the infrastructure space, right? That's where you're seeing big increases in prices. There is a certain amount of memory needed to generate one token compute for inference, right? Now that memory requirement is likely to fall because of efficiency gains. Right now, at least for the Western world, the LLMs and the cost that they're giving on a per token basis is actually fairly expensive, right? So if you look at some of the subscription plans in the West, it's $20 per million tokens. I think in China, some of the low-end plans are starting at $2 per million tokens. So that's a big difference. Now, at $20 per million tokens, there are many normal use cases which find it too expensive and they're not using it at all. So when those price points drop, for sure, you will start seeing more use cases coming in, right? And hence the consumption of the upstream resources will remain strong.
You mentioned that many successful Chinese AIs are open weight models. So how will this impact the distribution of value across global AI value chain?
Very important question. And I think, again, just like many of the other questions we discussed, there is no immediate clear answer right now. We have to see how the world evolves, but we can at least make some guesses as to what we need to focus on. Now, the open weight model basically, essentially boils down to the fact that these are models that are trained on Chinese servers, but then they are implemented. The inferencing is implemented on servers which are in the US or in Europe or Singapore or wherever. So I think from the Chinese open weight model system, it is probably easy to get embedded onto many hyperscaler and cloud and data centers globally, and you will pop up as an option for many customers, right? But monetization, you need to be really innovative in terms of making money out of it. Right, so you need to ensure that there are apps being built upon it. One point which our China team feels is that while these are really good models and they will be attractive to, let's say, enterprises in Europe or in the US, implementing those onto the data center of those US enterprises will require some skills. So one way of monetization could be the Chinese LLM company, their engineers help deploy these open weight models on the premises of the US enterprises or European enterprises, and maybe maintain it on an ongoing basis. That can be one revenue driver. Or you could have other apps that come built upon these LLMs, and you can charge a licensing fee or a royalty fee from those apps. So if you are a closed loop model, then the monetization is much more straightforward. It is a subscription fee for every access that you make. But if it's an open weight model, you need to be a bit more innovative and creative in terms of how you get the monetization. But there is a path of monetization that in the operating system era where you can actually make money, even if it is an open source model.
So, under the trend of the rise of Chinese AI, which segments are most likely to benefit?
Okay, so I think we are in the evolution of the AI industry, but at the moment, I think what we can safely say is that the model layer is doing a lot of innovation, but all those models need to run on some infrastructure, right? And the infrastructure space is a lot less fragmented. It's more concentrated. There are very few hyperscaler companies either in the US or in China, and all models have to run on those only. So I think it seems like the infrastructure layer is where there is a lot more concentration, and that's where eventually there can be pricing power and profitability that can be made. The model layer needs to be really innovative in terms of how powerful they are as models and what kind of revenue charging mechanisms that they can really come out with. So that's not clear in the sense we can't, out of the 10 or 12 leading models globally, including the Chinese models, it's hard to say which are the three which will eventually be the winners.
Let's talk about stock markets. You expressed this positive view on Chinese equities. So, what is your view on tech sectors? And is there any subsectors you prefer?
Right. So we still stay positive on Chinese equities. It is an overweight market for us. If you look at the internet space, the large stocks, it seems like the peak of the competition on e-commerce and food delivery and quick commerce could be behind us, and we could start seeing earnings upgrades over there. We feel that if the market is inexpensive, it's cheap enough, and there are good turning around stories that we are seeing across sectors. And the way the US AI story is being appreciated by the markets, I don't think the front end AI is being appreciated fully, in China. At some point, that will start coming around. Now, specific to the tech space, yes, I mean, of course, that has been a really hot sector. I'm talking about the semis and hardware and so on. It is a fairly large open opportunity because there are big infrastructure build-outs happening in China, and all of these companies are supplying to that. I also mentioned, earlier on that there is a question from the Chinese semis market, which the global investors are also looking at. So currently, what's happening is that in the memory space, the leading suppliers in Korea, in particular, they are focusing on the AI opportunity, but they're not adding a lot of extra capacity. Now, the AI opportunity for them is today almost 50% of their entire opportunity, which means that in just 3 years, the global AI opportunity for memory semis has come up in so large that it is as big as the traditional memory opportunity across smartphones and auto and so on. Now, that is a vacant area emerging, i.e., there is only this much memory capacity, but there is a lot of demand, all of that can't be catered to by the global leading memory companies. So, which is a good opportunity for the Chinese memory companies to actually, cater to global demand, because you still need to run, make cars, you still need to make smartphones, you still need to make washing machines, and there's no memory, availability for them. Memory chips are not available. So, I think, we should closely watch this space. I mean, in the sense that the traditional memory space, which was dominated by some of the non-Chinese players, can actually become open for Chinese companies as well.
What advice would you give to investors who follow the AI scene today?
I would say it's too early to decide whether which part of the AI supply chain is going to win, right? Because think about it, there are, even in the global technology history, there are smartphone makers or mobile phone makers who were dominant 15 years ago who are no longer in existence. So take a long-term 10-year view and bet on the entire ecosystem, not on a particular company against the other, because we don't know who's going to win. But having said that, there will be cycles for sure, right? There will be ups and downs in the stock market. I think the recent correction, in the global AI domain was less to do with fundamentals. It was more to do with positioning and leverage and, and the unwinding of leverage and so on. You should ideally look through that. I mean, if you should have the patience, because this is a very long-term theme that you're looking at.